the top cop who put his badge on the line for justice.
You know the name Doug Poppa?
Yes, I do. God bless Doug Poppa, an honest cop.
I was elated, of course, but then as he testified, I was somewhat concerned for him, because I knew that they were probably going to crucify that man.
Sometimes the truth has a price. That may be the lesson of a Virginia police officer who says, in trying to do the right thing, he ended up paying for it.
The message you're sending is, see, we did it, Doug. You don't come out, you don't buck the system. No matter what the reason is, you just can basically keep your mouth shut. But if I wouldn't do it all over again, I would take the badge and I would leave it on somebody's desk and get out of police work. Because the day I can't tell the truth because somebody's pressuring me, and the day the system doesn't want me to tell the truth because somebody's pressuring me, is the day I'd leave the badge on the desk and walk away.
Poppa was fired for insubordination. One man who confronted truth and consequences.
From Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Doug Poppa, Truth and Consequences podcast. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 113 of the Truth and Consequences podcast. I'm your host, Doug Poppa, from Las Vegas, Nevada. Listen, this is a pretty disturbing story. When I see these things of police officers not doing their job correctly, it gets to me, especially when it has anything to do with anybody messing, a sexually assaulting, child molester, groper, same thing, sexual predator, and that's the story for today. It's Wednesday, April 27th, 2022, and this is another exclusive news story from Truth and Consequences podcast. The topic today is Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department police officer failed to nab alleged child sexual predator. According to my police sources, about 2 weeks ago, a child was on an aircraft flight to Las Vegas. The child was groped on the aircraft by a passenger. It was witnessed by other passengers who reported to the flight crew. From what I was told, that prompted the flight crew to make a notification while the aircraft was in the air to the police prior to the aircraft landing. Here's where it gets crazy. I was told that when the aircraft landed, the primary responding officer from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department's Airport Bureau at Harry Reid International Airport, formerly McCarran Airport out here in Las Vegas, went to interview the victim, and this primary police officer was informed by the passengers of the suspect's description, and he relayed that over the radio, from what I was told, the suspect's description to Las Vegas Metro Police Officer Diego Gutierrez, a P number 3899. According to what I was told, Officer Gutierrez just blew the call off, didn't do anything, which led to the suspect walking away without police intervention. The suspect, who could have been charged with lewdness with a minor, it's a felony here in Nevada, was never caught because of Officer Gutierrez's inaction. I was told that Officer Gutierrez is a 30-year member of the police department. I don't know if is that his first name, Diego Gutierrez, 30-year member of the police department. From what I was told by police officers, he's known to be lazy, doesn't do his job correctly. And Airport Bureau Sergeant, from what I was told, Eric Gallegos, Gallegos, wrote up Gutierrez on what's called a contact report, which basically I believe is like a preliminary disciplinary action form. And because of this guy's past action also, and I understand that some of the stuff he was brought up on, alleged in this contact report, was poor performance by Gutierrez for not responding to his call sign. In other words, when he gets radio calls, they call him on his call sign, he doesn't respond, allowing other officers to take his calls, lack of initiative in assisting other officers, delayed response times to calls, in other words, taking his time answering calls or not answering at all and let other cops answer the calls before he gets there. Failure to demonstrate basic investigation protocols, and completing only 3 reports over a period of over 1 year. So in over 1 year, this guy's only completed 3 police reports. Now, from what I'm told, like I said, they say this guy's lazy. He's a 30-year veteran of the police department. He's eligible for retirement. If he's lazy and he hasn't been doing his job, why wasn't he taken care of administratively, disciplinary, way before this incident happened? Okay? Some officers believe Gutierrez should have been charged with neglect of duty, and so do I, which could have led to termination. But that wasn't done because his inaction of not doing anything led to an alleged child predator not being caught. So the guy's still out there somewhere. We don't know where he is. Okay? Gutierrez is, from what I'm told, is being transferred to the Southeast Area Command for remedial training. So he's going to be removed from the Airport Bureau and temporarily being assigned to the Southeast Area Command for remedial training. And this guy's a 30-year veteran. So he's going to be going to an area command where there are going to be a lot younger officers there, half his age, which is pretty, it is what it is. So anyway, it's supposed to be going to the Southeast Area Command, from what I'm told, and he has to take refresher courses in several things, including a patrol response to sexual assault course. Let me say that again. He also has to take, they're recommending, a patrol response to sexual assault course. I guess because of this incident. Remember, this other passenger groped a child. That's a sexual predator. Grabbed him in his groin area in a sexual way. That's a child sexual predator. The guy was in court because he didn't respond. He blew the call off, and the suspect passenger, just walked away into the airport, and they didn't catch him. In my opinion, it's time for this guy to retire. He's got 30 years. He's supposed to be a lazy cop. Time to go. The community is not getting our money's worth. I want to put something up on the screen here. I want to put it up in a little box over here. I'll read what it is, because this even makes it worse, I believe. Okay. This is public record. This is Officer Diego Gutierrez's his pay, okay? And in 2019, this guy's total pay without benefits, overtime, extra pay, everything, ladies and gentlemen, $191,000. And in 2020, his total pay was $168,000. That's without benefits. That doesn't include the benefits. That's regular pay, other pay, and overtime pay. So 2019, $191,000. In 2020, $168,000. Obviously, out here in Las Vegas, the community is not getting their money's worth from this guy. I don't know what his problem is, but he has 30 years on the department. He's eligible to retire. From what I'm told, he doesn't want to retire. But a lot of cops are really pissed off to the fact that basically nothing's happening to this guy. You transfer him out of the airport. I understand it's a temporary reassignment. Go to the Southeast Area Command. He has to go and patrol, do some paperwork, report back to the sergeant, take some of those courses. And if the sergeant likes what he did, I guess he's going back to the Airport Bureau until he decides he's going to retire. Okay? In my opinion, Officer Gutierrez, it's time for you to retire now. And I don't blame these other cops for being pissed off. Okay? A child sexual predator walked, wasn't even stopped. There was no intervention by the police because this guy, from what I'm told, in essence, blew off the call, and he was known to do that. That's why they wrote him up, the sergeant, for months. He hasn't been doing his job right. Doesn't answer the call, doesn't answer the radio, takes his time, lets other cops go on primary calls when he's supposed to be the primary officer, from what I understand, and he just lays back like he's the secondary officer, the cover officer, when he should be the primary one responding. So it's a freaking disgrace. Another one of Sheriff Joe Lombardo's lazy cops who now allowed a sexual predator to go into the community or another aircraft, and he wasn't stopped. Now, from what I'm told and from what I know, anything that happens on an aircraft is a federal offense. It should be investigated by the FBI. But Metro at the airport, they'll always go out there first, do their investigation, and then if the Bureau is going to get involved in something, this is a federal offense because it occurred in the air in an aircraft. So I don't know what's going on with the investigation, but I would assume that if the passengers ID'd this guy and they knew what seat he was in, they can get a hold of the airline manifest, and they're going to know exactly who was sitting in that seat. They should be able to get photographs from TSA, from the video at the airport that the plane departed from. And so I don't know if that investigation is going on. So I'm hoping they got this guy identified. I don't know whether they did or not. But as far as I understand, that day he walked and nobody, hopefully this guy hasn't attacked or groped or molested another kid. Now, a lot of you people are familiar with my investigative reporting. I'm an independent investigative journalist, like I said. I'm retired, but this is what I do in my retirement because I have the expertise to do it. And for years, when I was writing for the Baltimore Post-Examiner, 5 years I wrote for them, wrote 165 stories on the Las Vegas massacre. We broke many stories. I wrote more stories than any other single journalist in the country on the Las Vegas massacre. And the 50th anniversary of that horrible night is coming up this October. And I have more stories that I'm going to be publishing on my podcast here, Truth and Consequences podcast, between now and the anniversary, the 5-year anniversary. In case a lot of people don't know, like I said, I broke a lot of stories then, but on my podcast, for the past over 2 years, I started this podcast in May of 2020. I've been breaking one story after another related to the police department, Sheriff Lombardo, Under Sheriff McMahill, and it's like one of the reporters told me back east, what's the matter with the news media out there? Some of these stories are huge. They don't pick up on it. They don't follow up on it. I tell people I don't have any control over that. I have police sources, high-ranking police officers, line officers, civilians, sworn, that give me this information, and I get it out. And hopefully somewhere along the line it will do some good. But I'm just going to hit on a couple of things here, and I'll have the description to these things in the description section of the video here that I'm doing here. And let me get this up on the box over there so I don't want to take me off the screen. This is going to be a short podcast because I got problems with my voice today because of the allergies out here. So what do you got going up on the screen here, ladies and gentlemen? I'm just going to read some stuff here. These are some episodes that are very disturbing. If you haven't watched them, if you haven't followed me, I'll have the links, like I said, in the description section of this video. But episode 54, these are all exclusive stories through my investigation that I published, and this is my forum for publishing my investigative journalism investigations. I don't have a website. I don't write for a newspaper. This is where my stuff is published in digital media. Okay? So episode 54, and you'll see the screenshots of these different episodes going up near the corner. Episode 54, I published on June 10th, 2021. And it was titled, Vegas Police Cover-Up Uncovered. Negligence led to kidnapping and rape of 12-year-old girl. A very disgusting story. 12-year-old girl got raped in 2019 because in 2018, some sexual assault detectives failed to do their jobs correctly, and the supervisor, and the guy was out for a year. A following year, he raped a girl in 2018, a little girl, 11-year-old. The following year, another girl got raped, 12 years old. And this guy's coming up for trial, I believe, in June or July. It's a freaking disgrace. This was a major cover-up by Sheriff Joe Lombardo, who's now running for governor of Nevada. And everybody knows what I think of him. He's an incompetent, documented liar, and he's corrupt. He's covered things up, kept them from the press, kept them from the public, time and time again. That was episode 54. It was part 1. In episode 56, I published on June 25th, 2021, and that was titled Sheriff Lombardo's Cover-Up of Police Incompetence That Led to Kidnapping and Rape of Child, Part 2. Then I did episode 82, January 13th, 2022, this year, and that was titled Lombardo-Directed Cover-Up, Botched Investigation Led to Kidnapping, Rape of Child, Part 3. These are very disturbing podcasts, and everybody that read these from across the country, attorneys, some of them are interested in this case, retired law enforcement officers, and just regular people who said, why is it that this has not ever been reported by the local media out in Las Vegas? Why don't they follow up on this stuff and try to get answers from the police department? Because you remember me saying many times in this podcast that the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department's Public Information Office, the PIO office, where journalists call to get comments and questions, I don't even bother them anymore, because Sheriff Lombardo, I was told by a police source last year, has told them not to acknowledge me. So when I send requests in, I just get nothing back. So that's why when I do these podcasts, I don't say, I ask for a comment, because I don't do it anymore, because they are very unprofessional, because their boss, Sheriff Joe Lombardo, is pissed off because I keep breaking these stories that police officers are leaking to me. Stories that he wanted never to see the light in the public domain. So, too bad, Joe Lombardo. That's just the way it goes, and it's going to get worse in the next couple of months. I got a lot of stuff I haven't reported on. I've been backed up on a lot of stuff. So anyway, that was episode 82. That was part 3. And I'll have the links, like I said, so it'll be easy to follow. Just go to the description section, hit on the link. We're on 113th episode with this one right now with my podcast. Here's another interesting one. This was episode 91. Again, not touched by the Las Vegas media. Published on February 13th, 2022. Like I said, these are all exclusive investigations conducted by myself from my police sources. And episode 91 was titled, ladies and gentlemen, LVMPD's Sleeping Duty Airport Cop Triggered Policy Changes. And you can listen to that one and watch that one. That was a police officer at the airport at the TSA checkpoint that was supposed to be watching the airport for security. He was at the TSA checkpoint booth, and he was watching movies on his cell phone and fell asleep while the movie was still playing on his cell phone. But what happened was there was an off-duty Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department deputy chief who was off-duty traveling, and he spotted that. And you'll read the podcast. I don't want to give it away, but the crap hit the fan. That's all I can tell you. And things would change at the airport because this guy screwed up and everybody else had to pay for it. So that's episode 91. It was another exclusive story. Here's another one that I broke, not touched by any of the Las Vegas media, because, one of the reporters said to me from back east, these stories, Doug, that you break, if you were in New York City and you were doing what you're doing now, and sending us these podcasts, and I send my podcasts to the email addresses of all the Las Vegas media. It's posted on their Facebook pages, on my social media. He said, these would be front page stories that we would follow up on, and we would keep going until we got an answer from the police department. So everybody's bewildered, like, why is nothing going on out there with anything that you've been doing for years? It's just like, they just ignore you. I said, yeah, but I don't care. I still do what I got to do, and I still get it out there. Because the job of a journalist is to get the information out to the community and let the community make the decision, especially when these stories are involving public officials, police officers, sheriffs, district attorneys. The public has a right to know what's being concealed, because we're paying for our police officers. We're paying for our assistant district attorneys. We vote the district attorney in. We vote the sheriffs in. So the public has a right to know when these guys cover these things up, and the public never finds out about it unless you keep digging and get it out. So I get it out in this forum here. Here's another interesting one. This was just a month ago. It was episode 96, ladies and gentlemen, published on March 2nd, 2022. The title, Exposed, Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department Negligence, a Factor in Kidnapping Rape of Boy, listen to this, by sex offender on house arrest. And you could read that story. I don't want to give it away, but there was a convicted sex offender on house arrest wearing an ankle monitor, and the police personnel who was supposed to monitor, because you have certain boundaries, certain limits where you can go. You can't go out certain areas. Well, they were, for lack of a better word, sleeping on the job, and this guy violated his limits where he's supposed to move, and in doing so, one day, he, a little 14-year-old kid was going to school, a boy, and he kidnapped him and raped him because of police negligence. And I know for a fact that there are attorneys outside of Nevada that are looking at these things, because I've got some contact information from them and said, we're interested in this, and sent us the links and stuff, because this is a freaking disgrace. All this stuff, and there's more, ladies and gentlemen. These are just a fraction of the stories that I broke. There's more stories out there. The cover-up of the falsification of police reports for violent crimes, sexual assault, which is rape, sexual assault, robbery, and they're ordered to downgrade the classification of those crimes, so the crime statistics go down when they're actually not down, and cops are ordered to falsify the reports, and this came from Sheriff Joe Lombardo and his former undersheriff when he was there, Kevin McMahill, who's now running for sheriff because Lombardo is running for governor. So this stuff has been going on for years. And all this information, ladies and gentlemen, matter of fact, I have an updated one coming out on the falsification of the police reports, because I got information just some time ago, in the past couple of weeks, from a high-ranking police official who told me some more stuff that's going to knock your socks off related to this. So these are all the things that go on out here. But for some reason, the local Las Vegas media, either they don't have the police contacts or they have them. I know for a fact that police officers over the years have told me that they have actually called up certain journalists, both in print and in the television stations out here, and gave them some serious stuff. And you know what happened? Nada. Nothing's ever been reported. So they give me this information, I vet it, and I get it out on my podcast. This is what I do. I'm on retirement. I live on Social Security, and if the Vegas media was doing all this, I wouldn't do it, okay? Because I don't make money from doing these things. I don't get paid. It doesn't, I don't exist financially because of this podcast. I have a PayPal account. I might as well say it now. I say that at the end. PayPal.me/Doug Poppa. And sometimes people put money in it, but I don't do this for money. I don't make a substantial amount. Every now and then somebody puts some bucks in there, but it is what it is, because if these journalists out here were digging and would make these police contacts, and their editors will allow them to do the stories, because I heard that's another issue from some reporters that used to work out here, both in television and the print, that they've actually told me that they're told not to do stories that's going to make the police department look bad and or the casinos unless they have to. And that's what I was told over the years, so you could take that for what it's worth. So anyway, that was the episode 96, and 14-year-old boy got raped and kidnapped on the way to school because apparently some police officers were supposed to be monitoring these computerized ankle monitors when they go off. Didn't see for like several weeks, from my understanding, that this guy was just all over the place and he wasn't supposed to be there. And that's one day he took advantage of the kid going to school, and we have a 14-year-old boy who got raped. Just like in 2019, we had the 12-year-old girl got raped because of the incompetence and negligence of the sexual assault detectives who were investigating it. And Lombardo and McMahill were involved in that cover-up, including, and you'll see the podcast, assistant sheriffs, deputy chiefs, captains, lieutenants, all the way down the line. I was told they were all involved in that cover-up. And Lombardo was really, really pissed off when I broke these stories, because he never wanted to get out. I mean, that's what my sources were telling me. So, it is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. listen, I'm going to shut this thing down. We're 25 minutes. Got a lot more stuff coming out. I got some new information on the Resorts World / Scott Sabella / Gambler Brandon Sattler scandal that's going on. Got a lot of stuff coming out on the unsolved 2016 Land Kaufman murders, the Las Vegas massacre 5-year anniversary coming up, and a bunch more information coming out on stuff that's going on in the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 22:03 hours, 3 minutes after 10 p.m., April 27th, 2022, from the desert of Las Vegas. This is the Truth and Consequences podcast. Thank you for listening. Much more to come, and you're not going to see any of this stuff in the Las Vegas media, and I wish they would. That somebody would call me up and a journalist say, listen, we want to follow up on stuff that you did, and I have no problem with doing that. But nobody has ever called me up in all the years I've been doing this, either for the Baltimore Post-Examiner or on my podcast. So it is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, please subscribe to my YouTube channel by hitting the red subscribe button if you're not subscribed. If you can, I know times are hard with money, but if you want to donate, it's paypal.me/Doug Poppa, DougPoppa. And then my audio podcast, the big one, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Radio Public, and the whole gamut. You all have a good night, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening.